its families. So we need to appreciate that this is not just doing the right thing and taking a stand on behalf of our country, Israel, and our way of life, but it is a fiduciary responsibility to do so. It is actually an inordinately high risk, what the SEC calls an asymmetric risk. And that's why tariff-free investing, we believe, is going to be in the mainstream of investment strategies from this point forward, and needs to be. I mean, if we care about the environment and so many other issues, human rights, labor rights, ask CalPERS, everybody has a list of restricted investments. They claim they can't bear them. And most public pension systems don't want any of this because they feel it contracts what they say their investable universe. It gives them less choice to get a better return. But they all have them because they've been insisted on properly by state legislators and others. Well, again, where's our national security? Where's the security of Israel figuring into that equation? And the answer is, it just hasn't happened. So I just want to make a pledge to you that working with UANI, United Against a Nuclear Iran, your individual federation initiatives, and other groups, we want to be a resource for you. Looking at the portfolios, screening portfolios, trying to give you a sense of what you're holding there that could be a problem, and to the extent that we can provide some advice on where you could go instead to free yourselves of being, in effect, part of the problem and join the team that's part of the solution. We're going to do everything we can to help you there. But do remember, what is the end result we're looking for here? Well, we're looking for tens of billions, ultimately hundreds of billions, and well more than $1 trillion, which is not, frankly, as you're finding out, as much as we once thought it was, with the trillions moving around today. It's not so baffling to think of $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Well, what happens if that was $1 trillion with an electrified fence around it that said, if you are a company that you're doing business in terrorist sponsoring states, you're out of that pool of funds? Finally, we would have found something that corporations care about in the security arena. They care about their share value. They care about their corporate reputation. Am I advising you to think about official sanctions, new regulations, restrictions, capital controls, the kinds of measures that could actually make the gridlock of our current global financial system worse and have unintended side effects? No, I'm not. I'm talking about market principles, disclosure, transparency, good corporate governance, accountability, and most importantly, investor choice. You now have a choice. Those are market principles being harnessed and vectored in such a way as to advance the national security interests of ourselves, Israel, and our allies more broadly. That is very much worth doing with your money and the money that all of you individually can influence around you. We are out of time, and I applaud everyone here for taking the time to demonstrate that interest. That for you, it stops today. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank Elise and Elise Dago and Rabbi Steinhardt, Bill Bernstein Federation, for sponsoring this event this morning. For those of us on this panel, this is an issue that we've been dealing with and think about all the time. It is not only reassuring to us, but it is with, I think, deep appreciation that we say to you, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this with more people in the community. Frank Gaffney and Roger Robinson, it's a pleasure and honor to serve with you. We've had the privilege of meeting and spending time together. Frank and I spent time together in Tallahassee and other places. Roger and I actually had to travel to Pittsburgh to be on a panel together. I'd like to tell you that it's a thrill for me to welcome you not only to my Senate district, but to my community. And it's good to be on stage with you. And one other quick thank you, and this leads into, I think, just a brief discussion of what we did in Florida, what we're doing next, and how it all ties together with what you've heard. And that is Mohammed Hussein, who's sitting at the table down right in front. Mohammed is from a small town in Sudan, which is about 2 hours or so from Darfur. And when we started more than 2 years ago to see if there was some way that the state could get involved to ratchet up the pressure on the government in Sudan, even as we looked at what we could do to prevent Iranian nuclear weapons, as we looked at Sudan and whether there's anything we could do to help with the Save Darfur movement, Mohammed literally appeared before us with an incredibly compelling story and a passionate voice. The reason that we passed legislation 2 years ago was because of so many people like Mohammed and the others in this room. There is an important role that all of you need to play, and I will talk about the investing piece. But more than that, from my perspective, given where I sit and what I do, understand that Frank Gaffney's comments were dead on. There aren't enough people who care. Most people, there was a poll that came out yesterday, over 70% of the people in America acknowledge that Iran is a problem. 13% of them think it's a problem we should be dealing with now. 58% of them think it's something that can be contained, it's for others to deal with, and the rest, the other 30%, aren't worried at all. The fact that you're here this morning and that you're focused on this issue matters more to me and our ability to carry this forward than anything that any of us are going to say to you this morning. So I want to thank you, and I want to encourage you to continue to be involved, just as the JCRC here in town, the JCRC in Miami has been involved, and Luis is here, and the Palm Beach Federation as well. It's been that kind of joint effort that's permitted us to get to this point. Let me say a word about what we did 2 years ago, and then I'll fast forward to today. In order to get the Florida legislature to tackle this issue, it was important to help my colleagues, many of whom don't come from communities, most of whom don't come from communities like this. They don't come from South Florida. They don't spend a lot of time thinking about the issues, certainly the issue of a safe and secure Israel, but there are a lot of them, the overwhelming majority, who care deeply about this nation's security. And when you have the opportunity to reach out to my colleagues from the Panhandle and Jacksonville and Tampa, those who count among their constituencies very large groups of veterans and families of active military, and you explain to them, as we did, that our state was investing in those companies who were helping Iran not only as they pursued nuclear weapons, but even as they manufactured the weapons being used against their sons and daughters, our sons and daughters, in Iraq. They got aboard. When we went to the investors, that is, the Florida public employees whose retirement dollars were really at risk, and we told them that their money, their investments were helping to perpetrate genocide in Sudan, their investments were helping the Iranians develop nuclear weapons, they were outraged. They were outraged on a moral basis, and they were outraged because their sons and daughters, perhaps more and at a higher percentage than any other